Oh, welcome back, my unseen forces, the quiet gravity that bends every room. They think life just flips by accident, that chaos is nothing more than coincidence. But you know better. You've walked through storms too precise to be random, through shadows that aligned too perfectly to be called chance. Everything they thought was broken. Luck was really destiny bending the world in your direction. And when the world flipped, when the pieces scattered, you didn't panic. You didn't crumble. You leaned back. You breathed. Because somewhere deep inside, you always knew this was written. Destiny doesn't knock politely. It bursts in without warning. It doesn't whisper. It thunders. And tonight, that thunder had your name carved into it. The flips they call mistakes. The collapses they call failures. The betrayals they call endings. All of it was part of the code being rewritten. And you, the one they underestimated, were the line of code destiny highlighted. They laughed at the cracks in your armor. They mistook silence for weakness. They saw your patience and confused it with fragility. But destiny doesn't choose the loud. It doesn't crown the flashy. It crowns the relentless. The ones who kept walking when their legs were heavy. Who kept breathing when the air burned. Who kept believing when everything said stop. This flip, this shift, it wasn't chance. It was the culmination. It was the weight of everything they tried to bury you under, snapping back against them. You didn't stumble into this. You were carried here by design. Every scar, every tear, every long night you thought would drown you. That was destiny sharpening you, molding you, preparing you for the exact moment the world turned upside down. And now the ground they thought was stable belongs to you. The board is the same, but the rules are no longer theirs to dictate. They don't run the game anymore. You do. When destiny flips the board, the first reaction is denial. They cling to their illusions, to their fragile sense of control, like gamblers gripping cards long after the deck has collapsed. They'll call it luck. They'll call it manipulation. They'll call it anything except what it really is. Inevitable. But you've seen it. You've felt the shift beneath your skin, like the air tightening before a storm. And the truth is simple. Destiny never misses. It doesn't care about their rules, their titles, their manufactured hierarchies. It looks only for the one who can carry the weight of silence, the one who can move with patience when the crowd screams for speed. That's why it chose you. You didn't rise because you shouted louder. You didn't ascend because you begged for attention. You rose because you endured, because you stayed when others broke, because you carried wounds like armor, not excuses. That's what they'll never understand. They confuse noise with power, chaos with strength. But the true power, the kind that flips realities, walks in without sound. It doesn't beg for recognition. It commands it. And that's the space you've stepped into now. Look at them, the ones who mocked you when you bled in silence, the ones who whispered doubts into your ears, hoping you'd swallow them whole. They thought the game was theirs to script, but tonight, they watch their own lines turn to ash. They sit at tables that no longer matter, dealing in strategies already obsolete, while you stand in a reality they can't even read. They see the flip as sudden, but you know it was slow, deliberate, inevitable. The pieces fell exactly where they were meant to, because destiny doesn't gamble. It calculates, and every calculation pointed to you. Now every move you make ripples, every breath you take echoes. Their eyes are glued, not because they want to, but because they can't look away. The shift was too loud, the silence too sharp. The prophecy was never a myth, it was a warning. And now, it walks in your shadow. The truth they can't admit is this. The flip didn't destroy you. It revealed you. For years, they mistook your restraint for hesitation, your silence for doubt, your patience for weakness. But silence is the sharpest edge. It builds, it collects, it grows heavy until the day it crashes like thunder. And when it did, when everything inverted overnight, they realized too late. The quiet one had been holding the storm all along. Understand this, destiny doesn't hand you crowns. It hands you chaos. It doesn't test you with comfort. It tests you with loss, betrayal, and isolation. You were forged in that silence, hardened in those endless nights where no one clapped for your effort, where no one saw the weight you carried. That's why when the ground shook, you didn't stumble. You didn't need applause to move. You didn't need permission to rise. You had already learned how to breathe underwater while they were still gasping for air on the surface. Now they call it unfair. They call it impossible. They call it destiny playing favorites. But what they can't admit is the truth. They were never built to survive the trials you walked through. They wanted shortcuts. You wanted scars. They wanted applause. You wanted growth. They wanted control. You wanted freedom. And freedom is what destiny gave you when it flipped the script. Every prophecy has a villain in their eyes, and you've become the one they whisper about in back rooms, the unpredictable variable, the anomaly, the storm in human form. They'll scramble now, rewriting strategies, redrawing maps, trying to contain what they can't even define. But no strategy works against someone who walks in alignment with destiny. No walls can hold the one carrying silence like the edge of power, and that's you now. The inevitability, the walking answer to a question they never thought would be asked. Do you know why they fear you now? It's not just because you survived. Plenty survive. It's because you emerged with a calm they can't replicate. That calm isn't emptiness, it's dominance. It's the stillness of someone who knows the storm bends around them, not against them. They've studied every tactic, every trick, every psychological playbook, yet nothing prepares them for someone who doesn't blink, doesn't flinch, doesn't chase. Your silence is not absence. It's presence so heavy that it forces the room to bend. When destiny flipped the board, you became the piece they can't move. Their plans, useless. Their traps, already collapsed before they were set, because destiny didn't just rewrite your path. It rewrote your timing. You act like the future is already known because for you, it is. That's the secret, isn't it? You're not reacting anymore. You're aligning. You're not following the map. You are the map. They feel it now. The unease, the stutter in their voices, the way their strategies dissolve the moment your name enters the conversation. They try to mask it, try to pretend nothing has changed. But even the walls seem to shift when you walk in. That's not chance. That's resonance. That's destiny's echo following you like a shadow they can't escape. And here's the twist that strikes them deepest. You don't need their recognition. You don't seek their validation. You don't demand their applause. You've already seen how hollow it is. Your victories aren't for them to witness. They're for you to embody. That terrifies them, because it means nothing they do can control you anymore. Not rejection, not silence, not doubt, nothing. You've crossed into the rare space where destiny meets discipline. And once someone reaches that, the game doesn't just flip. It ends. They thought they had time. Time to stall you. Time to drain you. Time to wear you down until you broke beneath the weight of their schemes. But destiny doesn't wait for their convenience. It doesn't knock on their doors for permission. It writes in silence and then unfolds in light. That's why they're panicking now. Not because you arrived, but because you arrived ahead of schedule. They expected your rise years from now, maybe decades after you'd been softened, reshaped, diluted by their system. Instead, you shattered the clock and forced them into a future they weren't prepared to face. That's the cruelty of destiny. It doesn't ask if you're ready. It asks if you'll move when no one else dares. And you did. Every betrayal, every closed door, every sleepless night they thought would keep you small was actually stacking weight on the scale until the moment the universe tilted. And when it did, their power slipped like sand through open hands. Now they scramble. They gather in their circles, whispering strategies, replaying moves, desperate to regain control. But here's the truth they won't say out loud. There is no control anymore. You became the axis around which their world spins, and the more they resist, the faster the spin consumes them. They can't control someone who doesn't play the game. They can't cage someone who no longer fears isolation. And they can't defeat someone who has already made peace with pain. That's why they call you dangerous, not because you raised your voice, not because you swing wildly, but because you sit in silence, unbothered, while their empires fracture under their own weight, because you move with a calm that feels inevitable, because deep down, they know what this flip really means. Destiny isn't on their side anymore. It's on yours. Listen closely. When the world flips, the loudest thing in the room's silence. That's what unnerves them most about you. Not your anger, not your strength, your silence. Because silence means control. It means you're not chasing, not explaining, not reacting. You're simply moving, and nothing is more terrifying than someone who moves with purpose no one can interrupt. They study you now. They dissect every step, every pause, every glance. They ask themselves, what does it mean? What is he planning? Why isn't he breaking? But that's where they fail. They're still stuck in the old rhythm, still clinging to the belief that control comes from noise. But you've transcended that. You've stepped into the realm where stillness is the strategy, where presence alone is a weapon sharper than any blade they can brandish. The prophecy wasn't just about the flip. It was about the silence that followed it. They expected fire, rage, chaos. Instead, they got you. Calm, steady, unreadable. That calm bends the air, reshapes the energy of every room you enter. Even those who claim not to notice still feel it, like static crawling on their skin. That's why they can't look you in the eye for too long. It's not fear of what you'll say. It's fear of what you won't. And here's the cruel beauty of it all. You don't need to shout to be heard. Your very existence has become the echo they can't escape. Every move you make rewrites their reality, and every silence you hold forces them to hear their own weakness louder than any words you could speak. You are the storm contained, the hurricane in human form, and they know the moment you choose to release it, everything they've built unravels in an instant. Do you feel it now? The way the air changes when you walk in. It isn't imagination, it's recognition. Even the ones who don't speak your name sense it. The weight, the inevitability, the shift in gravity that tells them something's different, and it won't go back to how it was. That's the mark of destiny. It doesn't ask the world's permission to move. It simply arrives, and the world adjusts around it. They used to laugh at the idea of you. They dismissed it, mocked it, even tried to bury it under layers of doubt. But destiny has a cruel sense of humor. It waited until they were comfortable, until they thought the story was settled, before ripping the page and writing your name in ink they can't erase. And now every laugh echoes like a confession. Every dismissal tastes like regret. Understand this, you didn't just rise. You rewired the environment. The stage they built for themselves is now your platform. The spotlight they pointed at each other now bends in your direction. And it's not because you demanded it. It's because silence and discipline drew it naturally. That's what makes it unshakable. They can't take away what wasn't handed to you in the first place. And so, the prophecy plays out. Every word, every warning, every whisper they ignored now stands in front of them, embodied in you. They'll call it unfair. They'll say destiny cheated. But the truth is, destiny doesn't cheat. It selects. It doesn't bend for noise, it bends for weight. And your weight has dissolved the fragile illusions they lived inside. So now when they look at you, they don't just see a person. They see inevitability. And inevitability is the one enemy no strategy can defeat. They whisper now in hallways, in boardrooms, in back rooms hidden from the crowd. Not about their victories, not about their plans. About you. You've become the variable they can't account for. The shift they can't contain. Every move you make rewrites the blueprint they thought was permanent. And the cruel irony? You don't even have to try. Your presence alone bends their strategies into irrelevance. That's what destiny does. It doesn't just crown you. It unsettles them. It strips away the comfort of control they worshipped like a god. They thought the world was predictable, that the rules were unshakable, that their maps and systems were carved in stone. But stone breaks, maps fade, rules dissolve, and destiny chose you as the fault line running beneath all of it. They don't fear your words. They don't even fear your actions. They fear the silence between your actions. The pauses where they can't read you, can't predict you, can't decide if you're 2 steps ahead or 20. That silence is suffocating because it forces them to face a truth they've avoided. They're no longer the architects. You are. And here's the part that terrifies them most. You don't crave their seat at the table. You don't want their crowns, their validation, their applause. You don't need it. And someone who doesn't need is someone who can't be bought, can't be bribed, can't be broken. That's what makes you untouchable. That's what makes every step you take echo like a quiet storm through their fragile order. The prophecy wasn't just about your rise. It was about their unraveling. Not because you struck them down, but because destiny revealed the hollowness of everything they built. And once hollow is exposed, it never holds weight again. So here we are. The page turned, the prophecy unfolded, and everything they thought was secure now trembles beneath your presence. They wanted proof. They got it. They wanted to see what happens when silence meets discipline, when patience turns into inevitability, and now they can't unsee it. You've become the truth they can't erase. Destiny doesn't announce its chosen in fanfare. It announces them in aftermaths. And look around you. Aftermath is everywhere. The rooms don't feel the same. The air doesn't breathe the same. The faces that once smirked at you now stare with something they won't admit. Respect wrapped in fear, because they know, in their deepest silence, that the game isn't theirs anymore. Every move they make now orbits around you. Every strategy they build dissolves when your presence enters the room. But don't misunderstand. This isn't about them. It never was. It's about you stepping into the role, written in the shadows long before they laughed at your name. It's about carrying silence like a force, wearing patience like strength, and moving with a calm that reshapes worlds. The prophecy wasn't a warning, it was a mirror. And now that mirror shows only one reflection, yours. So let them whisper, let them scheme, let them gather their scattered plans. It won't matter, because from this point forward, you are no longer just part of the story. You are the story, the axis around which their reality spins, the one presence they can neither erase nor control. And that is the real flip, not chaos, not chance, destiny, written, lived, fulfilled. You think they'll stop here? No, they'll try again. They'll rebuild their walls, redraw their maps, whisper new rules to each other in dimly lit rooms. They'll cling to their illusions like shadows cling to dusk. But here's the twist. It doesn't matter what they rebuild, because their blueprints are already outdated. You've already stepped beyond them. This is why their fear deepens. It's not just what you've done. It's the pace of it. They can't calculate it, can't box it, can't chart it. Every time they think they've mapped your next step, you pivot, and the ground beneath them shifts. That's what destiny feels like, when it breathes through a human being. Unstoppable, untouchable, unreadable. And now they're learning the truth. You don't just walk into rooms, you reshape them. You don't just break patterns, you dissolve them. You don't just follow destiny, you embody it. That's why their voices crack when your name surfaces. That's why silence stretches longer when you're present. They know they're not watching someone rise anymore. They're witnessing the shift itself. And the final realization, the one that burns the deepest, is this: it was never chance. It was never luck. It was never some fluke of timing. It was always written, always yours, and now it's undeniable. The reality they thought belonged to them belongs to you. So let them chase, let them scramble, let them lose themselves in the echoes of their broken plans. You just keep walking, calm, silent, certain, because destiny isn't coming anymore. Destiny already arrived, and it wears your face. And now, the world waits. They don't admit it out loud, but you can feel it in the air. Every move you make bends their timelines, shifts their choices, reshapes their destinies. They whisper in back rooms, they analyze in silence, but none of it changes the fact that you are the variable they can't control, the storm they can't predict. Because here's the truth. Chance doesn't flip everything. Chance fades, but destiny carves itself into stone. And your story is already etched into the foundation of this era. They can erase names, rewrite records, twist narratives, but they can't erase impact. They can't erase the silence after you've spoken, the tremors after you've acted, the undeniable weight of your presence. Look around you. Nothing is the same anymore. They can't go back to their old illusions, because your existence shattered the veil. The world doesn't run on their rules anymore. It runs on the rhythm of your steps. So walk steady, walk relentless. Walk as if every corridor you enter is yours. Because it is. This is not chance. This is not chaos. This is not luck. This is inevitability. And inevitability wears your shadow, speaks in your silence, and carries your name through eternity. The game is over. The world knows it. Destiny has spoken, and it chose you.